Good morning to one and all, and welcome to today's online class in the subject Corporate Finance. This online class is conducted for MBA Semester 2 students in the subject Corporate Finance. This is Dr. Mahesh M. Onjeri, Assistant Professor from Department of Management Studies, SDM College of Engineering and Technology, Dharwad. Okay, so in the previous classes, so we have learned the third duty of the finance manager, that is the financing decisions or within the scope of financial management. Okay, the third point, financing decisions. So I would like to take a quick recap. There are three duties of a finance manager. Okay, one is investment decisions. Okay. So identifying the alternative capital projects for the purpose of long-term investment, evaluating the capital projects and selecting the capital project which ensures maximum return, thus ensuring shareholders' wealth maximization. Okay, then second decision is the financing decisions. The finance required or funds required to invest in the long-term capital projects. Okay, this is one of the major decisions of the finance manager. So in financing decisions, the manager basically okay, makes decisions about from which different sources, okay, capital to be raised, then from each source in which proportion capital should be raised in the total capital. Okay, so this is what we are learning now. Third one was dividend decisions. Okay, so which was already covered in unit 6, which was discussed earlier. So we'll continue with our financing decisions. So I'll just give a quick recap. So since a finance manager can raise capital from different sources, these different sources of finance are broadly classified into two categories. First one, those financial sources that carry a fixed cost. That is debt capital, means loans, okay, then debentures, bonds, etc. So, and preference shares. So these sources of finance carry a fixed rate of cost. Then second category of sources of finance are those which do not carry a fixed cost. That is equity shares and retained earnings. So in the presence of fixed cost, okay, in the presence of fixed cost, the earnings, okay, a small change in sales will lead to a much more greater change in earnings before interest and taxes, as well as a small change in earning before interest and taxes will lead to a far greater change in earning per share. So I'm talking about operating leverage and financial leverage. And once you multiply operating leverage and financial leverage, what we get is combined leverage. Okay. So to measure the extent of leverage, okay, degree of operating leverage, degree of financial leverage, and degree of combined leverage we have learned. Okay, so then we illustrated operating leverage, its presence, and we interpreted what is the meaning of the answer. Then we learned the illustration on financial leverage, and we interpreted the results. Then we also learned how to calculate degree of combined leverage. So from this class onwards, we are going to go ahead with additional numerical problems. Okay. So we'll make a beginning with a simple problem. So I have not given any number, but just okay for the purpose of practice. It is asked in the problem, calculate degree of operating leverage. The sales revenue of a firm are 1 lakh rupees. Variable costs are 30,000 rupees and earnings before interest and taxes are 10,000 rupees. I repeat, calculate degree of operating leverage. If the sales revenue of the firm are 1 lakh rupees, variable costs are 30,000 rupees, and earnings before interest and taxes, that is EBIT, are 10,000 rupees. Okay. We can refer the first equation, 18.1. Degree of operating leverage is equal to contribution divided by EBIT. So how we obtain contribution? Sales minus variable cost. So sales are 1 lakh rupees given in the problem, and variable costs are 30,000 rupees given in the problem. So 1 lakh minus 30,000 divided by EBIT. So EBIT is 10,000 rupees given in the problem. So 1 lakh minus 30,000 is equal to 70,000 divided by 10,000, okay, is equal to 7. So the degree of operating leverage in this case is 7. So I repeat, the degree of operating leverage is 7 in this case. So what does it mean? Okay. It means a 1% change in sales, 1% change in sales of the firm will lead to 7% change in EBIT of the firm, okay, in the direction in which sales change. For example, okay, if the sales of this company are increased by 1%, it increases the earnings before interest and taxes by 7%. And if the sales of the firm decrease by 1%, it decreases the EBIT of the firm by 7%. So this is what we call it a magnifying effect. The presence of fixed costs, they have magnifying effect on EBIT. Okay. So I hope this one was simple and easy to understand. So here it is not asked to, in this problem they are not asked you to interpret, okay, the answer. So if you put 7, the answer will be complete. Okay, so with that simple, okay, numerical, we'll go ahead with EBIT EPS analysis, which we came across, okay, while learning financial leverage. Okay, so EBIT EPS analysis is used to evaluate alternative financing plans. Okay, so I'll explain a little bit theory here. In the same example only, if you can consider, a firm has a capital structure exclusively comprising of ordinary shares. Ordinary shares means, always remember, equity shares amounting to 10 lakh rupees. It means the present capital of the company is 10 lakh rupees. And what is the capital structure? All 100% of the capital is raised only from equity shares. So capital is raised only from one source. So the proportion of equity in the present capital structure is 100%. Now, the firm has wishes to raise additional 10 lakh rupees for expansion. This company wants to expand its business operations, for which purpose they want additional 10 lakh rupees. The company wants to raise additional 10 lakh capital. Okay, this additional 10 lakh rupees, pay attention, this additional 10 lakh rupees can be raised in different methods, okay, or different alternative financial plans. So an EBIT EPS analysis helps the manager to evaluate all these alternative financial plans and select that financial plan which ensures highest earnings per share and thus ensuring maximization of shareholders' wealth. So let us see what are the different alternative financial plans for raising additional 10 lakh rupee capital. Remember, additional 10 lakh. So financial plan 1, it can raise the entire 10 lakh rupees in the form of equity capital. Okay, so it is possible. Second financial plan, it can raise 50% as equity capital, means a 5 lakh from equity issue of equity shares, and 50% as debentures, means remaining 5 lakh rupee the company can raise in the form of debentures. So out of 10 lakh rupees, in second financial plan, the company can raise 5 lakh from equity, and 5 lakh from debentures. In the third plan, it can raise the entire amount as 6% debentures. Means all 10 lakh rupee can be raised by way of issuing debentures, which is the debt capital. And fourth alternate financial plan is the company can raise 50% as equity capital, means 5 lakh rupee as equity capital, and 50% as 5% preference capital. So 5 lakh rupee from equity capital and 5 lakh rupee from preference shares. So this is what exactly is EBIT EPS analysis. So how under the given EBIT level, okay, how under the same EBIT level, okay, so EPS changes or EPS differs, okay, because of the presence of fixed cost. For example, in financial plan 1, there is no debt capital, so there is no fixed cost involved. In financial plan B, okay, 50% as debenture, 5% debentures, 5% interest on 5 lakh rupees. Okay, so it is a fixed cost. Okay, so fixed cost is present. So when there is a fixed cost, okay, a small increase in EBIT has a magnifying effect on earning per share. That is what we are going to learn. Then, in case of third financial plan, all 10 lakh rupee can be raised through 6% debentures. The fixed costs are highest here. Okay, so there is presence of fixed cost. Then in fourth plan, 50% as a preference capital. Again, there is preference dividend is mandatory at the rate of 5%. So there is the presence of fixed cost. Okay, so when under the presence of fixed cost, how at the given level of EBIT, EPS is influenced, earning per share is influenced, and by using EBIT EPS analysis, a finance manager will be able to choose the best financial plan that ensures maximum earning per share to the shareholders. So that is theoretical background for EBIT EPS analysis. Now we'll go ahead with the numerical problem. So suppose a firm has capital structure exclusively comprising of ordinary shares, means equity shares, amounting to 10 lakh rupees. At present, the company has a share capital of 10 lakh rupees. The firm wishes to raise additional 10 lakh rupees for expansion. The company wants to expand its business, so it wants to raise additional 10 lakh capital in addition to the present 10 lakh. The firm has four alternative financial plans. So the company can raise additional 10 lakh rupees in any one of the following four financial plans. Any one only. But which one the company, in which plan, according to which plan the company should raise additional 10 lakh rupee capital, that is what we are going to evaluate. And EBIT EPS analysis helps us in evaluating these financial plans. So definitely we are going to choose that financial plan which ensures maximum earning per share or EPS. Further, assume that the existing EBIT is 1,20,000 rupees. Okay. So at the same given level of EBIT, we are going to calculate the EPS for each financial plan. Tax rate is 35%. Outstanding ordinary shares are 10,000 rupees. Okay. It means the present share capital of the company is 10 lakh rupees. Okay. So this 10 lakh rupee at present, okay, is raised from exclusively ordinary shares or all equity shares. The number of equity shares in this first 10 lakh capital are 10,000 rupees. And the market price per share is 100 rupees. Okay, so 100 into 10,000, if you multiply, you will get 10 lakh rupees. And are all four alternatives. So this is the data given in the problem. So you have been asked to evaluate which financial plan should the firm select. Basically, it becomes a case study because a decision making is involved in this case. Okay, so this is case study 4.3.1.2.3. Single proposal, replacement situation, and mutually exclusive. 3 case studies we have discussed, and then one more. Okay, case study to estimate cash flows of a capital project, and this one is the fifth. I have not numbered them, so this one is the fifth case study. I'll put the numbers later. So what is the decision you have to make as a finance manager? Which financial plan should the firm select among these four? So that is how we are going to explore EBIT EPS analysis now. Okay. So we need to make a simple table. Okay. And the title of the table should be EPS under various financial plans. EPS means earning per share, because we are going to choose that financial plan, okay, which ensures highest earning per share. So first column particulars, then second column is financial plans. A, B, C, D. 4 financial plans are there, and there are sub columns for each financial plan. Sub column A, sub column B, sub column C, and sub column D. So we'll make a beginning. The first item is EBIT. So you have to remember the sequence, okay, in which we can arrive at EPS. Earnings before interest and taxes is same in all the 4 alternatives as it is given in the problem. So which is 1,20,000 rupees. Now second, okay, see, please remember now we have to go ahead with each financial plan. A, financial plan B, financial plan C, and financial plan D. Okay, not common. Column wise calculations will not be same, it will be different. So please pay attention. So first, less interest. Okay, so in financial plan A, there is no fixed cost. Okay, there is no interest. Why? You can just check it up. Okay, under financial plan A, the company can raise the entire 10 lakh rupees in the form of equity capital. So equity capital is under the category of those financial sources which do not carry fixed cost. Okay, so hence there is no interest. All additional 10 lakh rupee will be raised only from equity shares. Okay, so if you look at financial plan B, there is 25,000 rupee interest. Let us check it out. Okay, so out of additional 10 lakh rupees, company can in under financial plan B or financial plan 2, company can raise 5 lakh rupee as equity and 50% means 5 lakh rupee as debentures, 5% debentures. Okay, so interest on debentures is mandatory, hence it represents fixed cost. So that is how we can calculate 5% of 5 lakh rupee debenture capital. 50% debenture means 5 lakh rupees. Okay, so simple calculation, 5% of 5 lakh rupee debenture capital or debt capital. So 5% of 5 lakh rupee debenture capital is 25,000 rupees. Okay, so this way you have to consider each financial plan every time. Then under financial plan C, the interest is 60,000 rupees. So let's check it out. So financial plan C, it can raise the entire amount as 6% debentures. Means all additional 10 lakh rupees will be raised through debt capital or 6% debentures. Okay, so definitely fixed costs are present here. 6% of 10 lakh rupees. So company has to pay 6% interest on 10 lakh rupees, which is fixed cost. So 6% of 10 lakh rupees is 60,000 rupees. And again, in case of financial plan D, there is no interest. Let's check it out. Okay, so 50% as equity capital and 50% as preference capital. Okay, though the 5% preference dividend is mandatory. Okay, but please remember, dividend paid on preference shares is not tax deductible. So dividend paid on preference shares is not tax deductible. Okay, that's why we do not show preference dividend in this row, because we're going to deduct interest first so that we can arrive at earnings before taxes, then deduct taxes. Okay, then we arrive at earnings after taxes, and see here, from earnings after taxes, the first payment which will be made. Okay, from earnings after taxes, the first payment that will be made is dividend on preference capital. Okay, so I explained it. So interest on debenture is present in financial plan B and in financial plan C. So once we deduct 1,20,000 minus 0, 1,20,000 is the earnings before taxes. Then financial plan B, 1,20,000 minus 25,000 is 95,000 earnings before taxes under financial plan B. 1,20,000 minus 60,000 is equal to 60,000 is the earnings before taxes under financial plan C. 1,20,000 minus 0 is equal to 1,20,000 is the earnings before taxes under financial plan D. So now from this we need to deduct tax. So why we deduct interest first? Interest is tax free. Okay, it has a tax benefit. Okay, so before charging the tax, interest is deducted from the taxable income. So now let's calculate tax on the taxable income. What is the tax rate mentioned in the problem? It is tax rate is 35%. So 35% of 1,20,000 is 42,000. 35% of 95,000 is 33,250. 35% of 60,000 is 21,000, and 35% of 1,20,000 is 42,000. Now deduct tax. So what we get is earnings after taxes. So 1,20,000 minus 42,000 is 78,000 is the earning after taxes from here under financial plan A. 95,000 minus 33,250 is equal to 61,750 is the earnings after taxes under financial plan B. 60,000 minus 21,000 is equal to 39,000 is the earnings after taxes under financial plan C. 1,20,000 minus 42,000 is equal to 78,000 are the earnings after taxes under financial plan D. Okay, so once the taxes are deducted, okay, so from this earnings after taxes, preference dividend are paid. Okay, and preference share capital is raised only under financial plan D. You can check it out. In financial plan A, there is no preference capital. Financial B, there is no preference capital. Financial plan C, there is no preference capital. So only in financial plan D. So out of additional 10 lakh rupees, 50% can be raised as 5% preference capital. Okay, so we have to deduct, okay, preference dividend at this stage. So 5% of 5 lakh rupees. 5% of 5 lakh rupees is 25,000 rupees, which is a preference dividend under financial plan D. So we're going to deduct 78,000 minus 25,000 is equal to 53,000. See, this is the amount available to equity shareholders. Priority is given to preference shareholders. So similarly, 78,000 is the earnings available to equity shareholders under financial plan A. Then 61,750 is the earnings available to equity shareholders under financial plan B. And okay, earnings available to equity shareholders under financial plan C are 39,000. And earnings available to equity shareholders under financial plan D are 53,000. So now how we are going to calculate earnings per share? So this is the earnings available to equity shareholders divided by number of shares. Okay, earnings available to equity shareholders divided by number of shares. Okay, now how we arrived at this 20,000 number of shares. Please pay attention, everyone. See, the company has a present share capital of 10 lakh rupees. And this 10 lakh rupee share capital is exclusively comprised of ordinary shares. Correct? Ordinary shares. And they are also given the number of shares. The outstanding ordinary number of shares are 10,000. The market price per share is 100 rupees under all four alternatives. Okay. So if you want to find out the number of shares, you divide the capital by the market price per share. So if you remove 2 zeros from here, so what we get is 10,000 is the number of shares. Similarly, we are going to identify the number of shares in each financial plan. So financial plan A, the entire additional capital of 10 lakh rupees will be raised through equity capital. So 10 lakh rupees divided by 100 rupees is equal to 10,000 will be the additional number of shares. So old 10,000 shares plus new 10,000 equity shares. That's how it becomes 10,000 plus 10,000 is equal to 20,000 equity shares under financial plan A. Then under financial plan B, already 10,000 equity shares are existing. Okay, so to which 5,000 new equity shares will be added. That is, in financial plan B, it can raise 50% as equity capital and 50% as debentures. So we'll concentrate only on out of the additional 10 lakh rupee capital, 50% can be raised as equity capital. 50% of 10 lakh is 5 lakh rupees. So 5 lakh divided by market price of the equity share, which is 100. So 5 lakh divided by 100 is equal to 5,000. So 10,000 old shares plus 5,000 new equity shares is equal to 15,000. In case under financial plan C, it remains 10,000 only because under financial plan C, entire additional 10 lakh rupee will be raised from debentures. So no new equity shares are present. So the number of equity shares under financial plan C will remain as 10,000 only. And again under financial plan D, 10,000 old equity shares are existing. And under financial plan D, it can raise 50% as equity capital. So 50% of 10 lakh is 5 lakh rupees. So 5 lakh divided by market price of the equity share, which is 100. So 5 lakh divided by 100 is equal to 5,000. So old 10,000 shares plus new 5,000 shares is equal to 15,000. So this is an important step. If you make a mistake, your answer will be wrong. And your decision also will be wrong in the end. So now we have the number of shares under each financial plans. When we say number of shares, it is only equity shares, please remember. So 78,000 divided by 20,000 is equal to 3.9. Earnings per share in under financial plan A. Then 61,750 divided by 15,000 equity shares is equal to 4.1. The earnings per share under financial plan B. 39,000 divided by 10,000 is equal to 3.9. This is the earning per share under financial plan C. Okay, so 53,000 divided by 15,000 is equal to 3.5. The earning per share under financial plan D means on each share there will be 3.9 rupee earning under financial plan A. For each equity share, there will be 4.1 earning under financial plan B. For each equity share under financial plan C, there will be a earning of 3.9, and under financial plan D, there will be a earning of 3.5 per share. Okay, so under which financial plan the company should raise additional capital? So the company should raise additional capital under that financial plan which ensures highest earnings per share, and that is financial plan B. Very good. So the decision is the firm should select financing plan B as it ensures highest earnings per share. Okay, so please remember this. And now there is sufficient time. If you have any questions related to this, you can ask. I'm going to unmute you all, and those students who do not have any questions, kindly mute your audio immediately. Okay, any questions from the students? Okay, see, I please remember. Okay, so when problems are solved by the teacher on the board or here on screen. Okay, so since they are simplified, okay, they are made easy to understand by the teacher. Okay, students feel like easy. But please remember, when a teacher teaches one type of problem at a time. But when you appear for the examination, all the problems from all 6 units and all the chapters, you will get the problems simultaneously. So then there are greater chances that you may get confused as to this sequence, for example, what to deduct first. Hmm? Or you may not recall the equations, or you may not recall which equation to use. So for all this, there is only one solution. Okay, please practice the problems. Please write the problems and solve them. Okay. So if you find any difficulty, you can refer, but at least solve them in the some separate notebook or separate papers. So there is the saying, practice makes man perfect. Okay, that is the only way. Okay, how you can overcome the confusion or forgetfulness during exams in the numerical subjects. Okay, and also, okay, so it looks like students do not have any questions. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, okay, end this class now here, and once the meeting gets converted into recording, okay, video, so I will begin the second session immediately. So approximately it takes about 10 minutes. Okay, so all the students kindly stay back. I'm going to start the second session in next 10 minutes. Okay, thank you, and see you again in 10 minutes.